Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It is a gorgeous day out here. My phone decides that it is 65 degrees outside right now, so that's wonderful. It should be getting to be in the mid 70s today, I think. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Uh, yeah, it's starting to warm up. Pollen season, it's been crazy. Although it rained pretty bad on Monday. And by pretty bad, I mean it was just a constant rain and it washed a lot of the pollen out of the air. So that I think it was Tuesday, we had a pollen count of 9, which is very uncommon this time of year. We've had many times around this time of year where we've gotten the pollen counts to be almost 5 digits. So close! And it doesn't bother me, but it does bother a lot of my coworkers and friends, so it is just wonderful mocking them, except everything is covered in green, and more green. There was a little excitement this morning while I was cutting the fabric for what I'm going to be working on. There was a lot of noise next door, truck wise. I was like, what is going on? Finally, I looked out the window and I saw a delivery truck, so I texted my neighbor and said, "What'd you buy? What you getting?" Because I didn't know if they were getting, new kitchen stuff, which they recently got some new kitchen stuff recently and stuff, or if they were getting new furniture stuff or what. And the wife said that her husband had entered some sort of a contest and won 4 swivel chairs for their front porch. Wicker with nice cushions and stuff. They sent me a picture. It looks cool. So that was exciting. And I made a comment. I was like, "You won a prestigious prize and it wasn't a lamp? How rude." So we had that. And yeah, it's been a fun day today. And I found out that after this, I get to go pick up my bolt of fabric that I had ordered up at one of the local quilt shops. So very excited I can go pick up my fabric. And they posted yesterday they have a new line in, and I was like, I have the perfect pattern for that. It's Stephanie's Calm Waters. That was the pattern. So I think I'm gonna go buy some fabric for Calm Waters and maybe get a sew along going with that closer to summer because I've got a few things happening over the next few weeks. I'm going to say good morning to folks. And I see Stephanie's here. Good morning, Stephanie, as I was just talking about you. Good morning, Beverly, and good morning, Charlotte. I saw that there's a few other streamers that are still on right now, so y'all are probably going to be slowly coming in from them as they get over and stuff, so not in a rush. Replays are there for a reason. I think you may have seen a different card up if you saw my scheduled live this morning. I was initially going to work on week 4. For the 4th week in a row, work on the progressive pride flag. But I didn't sew any triangles this week. And yeah, no, I said I got to find something else. So I am going to be working on the Saturday sampler from my local quilt shop. Don't have a pattern for it. I have done some research. I think I found the site where they've ordered a bunch of their other previous Saturday sampler stuff from, thanks to the copyright at the bottom. But I can't find this program from that website, so I'm going to either have to search more or just not care enough, and we'll just be sewing random blocks whenever we do this, because I don't have any full detail information except the copyright, from the company who published it and the designer. And when I searched for them, I found a whole bunch of their old Saturday Sampler programs, like a bunch of them. I'm like, this explains where you're getting your stuff from, but I can't find this one yet. Doesn't mean I'm not going to stop looking, but I had to actually get some stuff done this morning for this. Good morning, Elaine, my friend. I met Elaine a couple weeks ago at a um, quilt show event at our local cultural center because they don't want to be called a library anymore. Um, yeah, so I've got my fabric cut for this, and I'm going to start sewing in a moment. I just lost track of what was in my head. Oh, I'm going to let y'all in on a secret. And because you are watching this now, you get the inside information. I did a thing yesterday, and I had so much anxiety after I did the thing that, you know, I was just like, terrified, but it really doesn't matter. The thing I did is I entered, or I put in my application to display at a local East Cobb quilt show. The show is in June, and I find out May 3rd if I'm selected as a participant in the quilt show. It's a ribbon show. I'm not expecting any ribbons or anything. It's going to be, simple, basic, just showing off for inspiration for people. Doesn't have to be for, like, this is my first show. I don't expect anything. Obviously, it would be nice if I got a ribbon, but if I get one, I get one. If I don't, there's no difference to me. So I'm just very excited to be considered at this point to be entered in the show, even though I had to pay my $16 to be considered. Doesn't matter. It goes towards the Quilt Guild. It's all good, but I'm just excited that in just over a month I will find out if I am selected. The quilt that I'm putting in is called New England Summer Lovin'. I probably have photos of it about a year ago in my blogs. I will give more details tomorrow in my weekly vlog and actually show the pictures that I took as part of the entry. So you'll be able to see that tomorrow. You're just getting the insider information that I did something. Good morning, Sally. Thanks, Beverly and Charlotte. It's like I said, I had full anxiety after I hit submit, and then I'm like, it really doesn't matter. It's just, the exciting. This is my first actual real show. I've done the porch party a couple years. In fact, part of what I have to go up to the quilt shop for, besides my bolts, is to sign up for the porch party because they didn't have the sign up sheets last week. So I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun, and yes, entering is a big step. Entering, maybe I feel like entering felt the same as hitting record for the first time for the YouTube channel, or hitting upload for the first time for the YouTube channel, or hitting go live for the first time in the YouTube channel. It's big steps, and I'm just excited to be able to share the quilt with folks. The hardest part is coming up with that description, and because they wanted like 50 words, it was 500 characters. And I was like, I have no idea what to write about this. I know every quilt has a story. It's just me writing out a story is very difficult. I could, talk about the quilt for hours and hours, but trying to summarize that whole talking experience into something that makes sense in 500 characters is very difficult, but it is what it is. Melissa is listening and walking the dog. So Melissa's who let the dogs out. Woof, woof, woof. Elaine is looking forward to the quilt show and hopes that my quilt is accepted. When I met Elaine and I was talking with another friend of mine, they said that they only had like 100 or so applicants at the time, and it's supposed to be like a 300 quilt show. So sounds like there's a good chance. But I also noticed that when I had hit submit, I was number 673 or something like that. So I don't know whether that's applicant 673 ever, because they do this every couple of years and they might be using the same website and same backend, or whether that is applicant 673 for this show. Either way, if it is 673, that means I got a 50% chance of getting it. That's better than, 0 odds. And it's just in the piecing category. So it'll be pretty exciting. I don't know if there's a lot of folks who enter the piecing versus the more artsy quilts, because looking at what was in the winners for the past couple of years, it puts me in awe every time. I mean, anytime I see anybody else's quilt that's not mine, it puts me in awe, and it's just it's great. So we'll see. Good morning, Mom and Pop Laura Lynn, and good morning, Tessa. So I think I'm going to start moving over into the sewing setup. I've got some of the fabrics already cut here. I've got other fabrics over here to the side so I don't get them mixed up. Like I said, this is the pattern, and I do not know where to find it yet. I'm sure you could probably find a block that looks just like this on the internets to do it yourself. It's a finished of 12 inches, I believe. Yes, 12-inch finished. So if you can find something that looks like this, if you want to sew along, that's great. I will, for the future months, see if I can either find a similar block to sew along with, or what. Marlene says that's better than a kick in the butt with a frozen muckluck. And I'm not Canadian, but I know the Frantics, and they're when they talk, they're at the bus station, and it's like muckluck gazebo. It's one of those silly things that I know from at least 25 years ago. So the first step in this is I need to make a handful of flying geese. So I've got my other foot on, not my 1/4-inch foot. And these are traditional method flying geese, which means they're not the awesome cotton cuts, pre-cut stuff. So I have to do these pretty darn carefully. Especially since these are smaller, and smaller doesn't mean harder, it just means take it a little slow. I have found in many cases smaller pieces are easier to work with. Laura Lynn must apparently know what I'm talking about. Because the seams are smaller, smaller pieces are usually a little bit easier to handle. I find that I tend to go a little wobbly when it comes to big pieces. Again, not a big deal, but and also with smaller pieces, I have my laser light that I can follow up with, and that makes it a little easier to keep in line. When you get to the bigger stuff, you've got to do you really do have to draw the line with bigger. With smaller, you can fudge a little bit easier. So what is everybody working on today? It's the end of National Quilting Month, and a wonderful, gorgeous Saturday. So I'd like to know what people are trying to work on. I know Melissa's walking the dog. I didn't let my iron heat up fast enough. Stephanie says, "Love those colors are nice, very spring-like. Love them. These are very fun colors. The fabric line is called On the Bright Side, and I've already forgotten who it's by because I had to search it up, or I tried to search it a couple weeks ago when Stephanie was interested in it." And I said, let me see if I can find information. And they gave us fat eighths of the fabric. And on one of the fabrics, it gave me got a little bit of selvage of On the Bright Side. There were two other, what are those things called? Colorways that the quilt shop is doing. And one of them is Bluebell, and the other is lost on the tip of my tongue. And I have a couple friends who want to get into Bluebell, but they have stopped sign-ups of it because it's difficult to find or to get the fabric. They have just enough fabric to handle the quantity of folks who are signed up and doing no more sign-ups. So I'm like, oh well, it's not like another Saturday Sampler program won't happen in a couple months. I got that first half done on a couple of these. I'm chain stitching these so I can get basically all the stuff that requires the open foot done first, and then I can do all the stuff that requires anything else done later. Elaine is getting a mystery box from Fort Worth Fabric Studio. That sounds exciting. Speaking of Fort Worth Fabric Studio, they are starting their next, what do they call it? Mystery quilt. It is going to be a 4-week program, or 4-week set of patterns. Starts April 15th and goes for 4 weeks. And they are selling kits for it. The pattern is going to be a extra long table runner. I believe it's 24 by 70, 24 by 72, something like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun to put together. I am getting a kit, so I will be sewing it here on my Elevensies. What are they saying? The Saturday after the patterns are released. So the pattern is released on Monday, for instance, April 15th, and then the tutorials are coming out from Stephanie and Kathy's Cute Creations. So they're the ones doing the official tutorials for Fort Worth Fabric Studio. And then the following Saturday, I will be sewing live. It's not going to be so much a tutorial because you got 2 tutorials out there that are pretty good. I mean, Stephanie does awesome tutorials. But if you want to sew with somebody instead of just sewing with a tutorial in the background, you are welcome to join me for those sew-alongs. The fabric for it that Fort Worth Fabric Studio was selling is the lemon bouquet fabric. It is gorgeous fabric. I've seen it because it was in one of our subscription boxes. So I'm very excited to see what they are able to do with a table runner with it. Let's see. Tessa finished an Elizabeth Hartman bunny block and is now working on a Lori Holt block. Elizabeth Hartman looks a lot of fun, but there's also a lot of pieces in some of those. Not as bad as the Art East projects, but it's a lot of pieces. I've got at least one Elizabeth Hartman pattern that I want to do. It came in a Sew Sampler box. And yeah, I'm just like, that's a lot of pieces. That sounds beautiful. Charlotte's going to be sharing pictures soon. And Elaine is sharing the story on how we met because a friend of mine was working the quilt show at our cultural center, and Elaine was showing a video from Stephanie's retreat and saw me in it to the friend and said, "Hey, Russ, somebody's here who knows you." Completely startled me that, I was like, how does somebody I know somebody, like, I'm sorry, how does somebody that I don't know that I know somebody? That's how the conversation started. And when I found out that it was that it was just showing and it just accidentally showed and was like, oh, I know that person, that was pretty cool. It's almost as exciting as a time that I walked into a local quilt shop and this lady said, I know you. And, channel was young and I was like, I don't want to make any comment. I don't want to be a big deal at the local quilt shop. And she goes, you're on that picture frame at the register all the time. I was like, yes, that's me. That's me, definitely. And that picture frame is very amusing because uh, the shop owner's daughter says there's about 2,000 photos on it. So if I can see myself every time I go into the shop on that picture frame out of 2,000 photos, I'm on there a lot. I've about got my flying geese trimmed. I'm going to be well in advance for this Saturday sampler because I usually go on third Saturday. And I'll have this one done by the end of this month. Okay. After that, I can switch to my other foot. Thank you, Stephanie, for pretending that I'm such a nice guy. As I tell people, I try my worst. Good morning, Jackie. Good morning, Donnell. Good to see you. I saw you were on live just before I started, so it's great to see everybody. Now let's make sure I have this in the correct orientation. Stephanie, has my fabric come in yet? Not that I'm in any rush. Okay, let's see if I do it this way. I'm just trying to figure out the easiest way for me to sew this. Good morning, Vera. I do have the dad jokes. They are so much fun. Donnell just ended her live and told folks to come see me. Well, thank you very much. Hi, anybody who came here from Donnell's live. Good morning, Nancy. How are you today? And good morning, other Nancy. Guess who? A pair of Nancys came in at the exact same time. It's almost like fate. And I can do this one this way. I do it this way just so that I always have an easy straight seam to follow. And then when I get to where the little dog ear is here, I just lift it up so it goes underneath my presser foot. And somehow works just perfect. It also helps if I try to line it up correctly. I knew something didn't feel right when I was doing. Nancy asks, what am I making? It is a Saturday sampler program with my local quilt shop. I apologize you can't get into it because you have to be part of the local quilt shop. And even if you are local to here, they've run out of sign-up spots. So if you wanted in on this one, it's too late. The pattern is called Mockingbird. It's going to end up being this. It's the first month of the Saturday Sampler, so it's going to be 12 months of this. My local quilt shop is really awesome with their Saturday Sampler program. You sign up for it and you pay your entry fee, and you have to sit through an infomercial that they give, which is telling all of the cool stuff that is happening in the shop coming up, including, fabric that is like fresh arrived, and all the new classes, shops that basically they get their money back by selling all of that. And as long as you have your block completed, or let me rephrase that, you get your first block and you take it home and you follow the instructions and put it together. A month later, as long as you bring back your finished block and sit through one of their infomercials, you get your next block for free. If you don't do both, you have to pay for your block afterwards, which ends up making it cost prohibitive because you're essentially paying every month for a block. So it ends up being, I think it's $150 just for 12 blocks. That seems pretty cost prohibitive to me, but paying, I'm going to say $20 for 12 blocks, that sounds wonderful. Especially, like I said, I have bought so much stuff from the fact that they tell us everything that's available. And it's all about, sharing what they have and everything. And at the end of the 12 months, they will offer a finishing pattern for the way that they decide to finish it. And if you don't like that, you're welcome to buy fabric on its own after they completed everything for everybody else to finish it however you want. So they're essentially recommending you finish it the way that they ask to finish it. That way they know they have the right fabric. And if you want to do it a different way, they may or may not have the fabric for you. I have been doing Saturday samplers now for 15 years. I've only finished a couple of them. Not for lack of wanting to. It's the early ones. I had no, I'm going to say, skill on how to finish it. All I had done was put a 12 or 16-inch block together. I had never sewn one block to another block or put sashing strips or anything on. So it was very intimidating for me to do that. Nancy asked, do they give you the fabrics? Yes, they do, which is why it's an amazing program. They give you the fabric, they give you the pattern, and just send you home to do everything on your own. And then you can come back with the finished stuff. It was great in the beginning for me because it allowed me to really learn what I'm doing without having to take all these extra classes. I was using YouTube University and the instructions that are in the paper and stuff to try to figure out what I'm doing. And it meant that I wasn't investing in a lot of fabric. I did not have to go to the big box store and hope that whatever fabric I was purchasing was decent fabric to work on. And if it didn't come out perfect, it was a learning experience. So I always learned something as I was doing it. So it's just really great to help build your skills. My very first quilt block that I ever made was from a Saturday sampler. It was just over 15 years ago when I was conned into basically joining in on it. And that's how I was learning how to quilt. And the shop pretty much recommends, after you've done their beginner class, to do Saturday Sampler. And I wanted to take one of their intermediate classes, and this was 12 years ago. I wanted to take the class, and it had a prerequisite of you had to take the beginner class. And I was like, okay, I'll take the beginner class. And when I get into the beginner class, the instructor's like, what are you doing here? You're not a beginner. I was like, technically, I am. Because I've never done anything beyond a block. And I want to learn this other class, so it's a prereq. And they're like, well, it's your money. Best money I ever spent. Because I learned so much in that beginner class on techniques that weren't even mentioned in the Saturday Sampler program. I'm a firm believer that most classes, even if you don't think you would learn anything out of it, you'll learn something out of it. Unless you've already taken the class. Charlotte is right. Sampler blocks are the best way to improve your skills. Because you get to try new blocks with everything. Good morning, 100 Proof Quilter. How are you today? I did read through these instructions and found out that I think it's step 3 and step 5 are inconsistent with each other. But it's just a rotation, so it's not like it's the end of the earth. But you can't do step 3 the way they tell you to do step 3 and expect step 5 to look like step 5. Okay. And step 3 is the one that I'm about to start. Oopsie. I love how sewing fabric to fabric makes them get bigger and bigger. There's also no pressing instructions, but I'll just make them up. So here's my partial block now. And I did pretty darn good with that point. I'm just getting rid of the dog ears to reduce the bulk. And I know I've only got 3 right now because number 4 is on here because I am chain piecing. Good morning, Mona. So the next step says I need to add these rectangles to it doesn't really matter, but I just got to make sure I figure out which side and do it consistently. Okay, that's the instructions. Grab this one off real quick. May have this block done by the end of the live. I hope everybody's going to have an awesome Easter tomorrow as well. I had to put a reminder in my calendar this evening to go grocery shopping tonight because the grocery store is closed tomorrow. I don't have any official Easter plans. I was supposed to hang out with a friend until we discovered, oh, it's Easter. He's got to work. Stephanie says this block is great for skill building. Yes, it is. I'm going to end up trying to spend some time later this evening to find the block online in a free pattern just so I can share it in the description below. And for future months, have the block available ahead of time so people can try to join along if they want. I know all of these are fat eighth compatible, fat quarter compatible. I don't know how much of each because, again, this is not a pattern that I know anything about except what they give us every month. But at least if you get the patterns, or if you go download the patterns each month, you can make it up with whatever you want whenever you do it. And this says to do this way this time. And then after this, I'm deviating from the pattern because I don't want to say I know what I'm doing, but I know the pattern has something weird looking, and as long as I just put everything in order on what it looks like, it just goes together like a 9-patch. Good morning, Landa. Tessa says I should have a treat hunt with the fur babies. Riley will find them and personally be like, why are you making me work? And then while I'm thinking about it, I can do these. No, I can't because I miscut something. Uh-huh. That's uh-huh. Did I cut this wrong? I cut this wrong. See? Not an expert. I was wondering why the top of my flying goose was looking a little thin. And it's because I cut these pieces somehow a 1/4 inch too big, which means I'm not going to go back there, be rude, have my back to y'all. So I'm not going to get it done, but let's see how far I can get before. See, this is a centerpiece, and that's cut right. So everything was cut right except for these blues, and I did not verify my blues. See, it happens all the time, and I've caught myself a few times before. I'm undecided if I'm just going to recut this. Probably will just recut it because we have enough fabric and redo those. Life happens. I'm not worried about it. And the only reason why I'm not worried about it is because they gave us enough fabric to not worry about it. In their previous Saturday Sampler programs, I would have to go to the shop and purchase Oops fabric. And their Oops fabric was $1. And that dollar was whether you got a 6-inch square piece of fabric or a 8x10 piece of fabric or whatever it is. Jeannie asked, can't I just trim the flying geese? And the answer is no, because my seam allowance is like 1/8 of an inch up here. And if I was putting this in the middle of a block, I would almost be okay and just do a little bit of an iffiness there, or definitely lose my point. But because this is the outside of the block, I do not want to do that. So it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. It'll just take me 15 minutes after I get the fabric cut to redo those flying geese and get the block put together. So you'll see it put together tomorrow. Again, because there's no pressing instructions, I'm just pressing on feeling. And it's mostly because I see these and I want to press to the darker fabric, which means I got to press to the darker fabric there, not the way the fabric wants to go. Okay, let me make sure I have these oriented correctly. So what I was saying is, for the finishing piece, it's telling us to do it in rows like this, but you can't have these mirror images if you sew them all the same way like they tell you to do in the instructions. So it's just a matter of a simple rotation. I just got to make sure I get the block in the correct orientation. Okay. Nope, that's not right. That's right. So as long as I can make 4 of these, and the 4th one's right there, put the others here just so I can do that. The seams will nest. And they all end up looking the same anyway. Guess who, Nancy asks, are the pieces pre-cut? No. The pieces they give us, I don't even want to say that they give us yardage. They give us essentially scraps. Normally, this program is different because of the way the program is set up. But normally, they just give us just enough to cut the pieces that we need. So if like for instance, the center block is a 3.5-inch square, and that's all we need. If this was a traditional program, they would be giving us probably about a 3 7/8 piece of fabric, maybe a 4-inch piece of fabric, and we have to cut the square out of that. So it does give us practice on cutting, and cutting wrong in my case. So it's Saturday Sampler in our local quilt shop is definitely a skill builder. And because, I love sewing with everybody, it would be nice if I can have like a Saturday Sampler or something that I could sew with y'all. But that's only feasible if it's a pattern that they do. And they don't, sometimes they'll do a block of a month. But again, those are still fairly expensive, and I wouldn't want to do that. But I have pondered seeing if I could write my own Saturday Sampler pattern, something that is accessible to everybody, and see if I can get the local quilt shop to basically do their... Where did my missing piece go? Okay, I lost it. There it is. Do their color selection on it, because they love to just take a Saturday Sampler and do multiple colorways. So I want to see if I can partner with them. I do the design of the blocks. Maybe I pick one of the colorways, and they do the other colorways. And then at the end of the program, I do a finishing, and they do their own finishing. And if I can do that, then I can share the patterns with y'all. But I can't share these patterns with y'all unless I find a free version on the internet, because they are part of a designed pattern. Okay, let's see. If I pressed those that way, that means I got to press these that way in order for nesting to happen both directions. Math, it's hard sometimes. So once I have a chance to play with EQ8 and come up with a set of Saturday Sampler patterns, if I can convince the local quilt shop to do it, that'd be great. If I can't, then maybe I'll do something like a sampler program just on Elevensies. It just really depends on the mood of the shop owner. Sometimes she's like, great, that'll be awesome. And then sometimes she's just, no, it has to be done this way, and we got to know certain thing. Yeah. But since I did find the shop or the site that I think they've gotten a lot of their Saturday sampler patterns from, I know what I can negotiate with price. And I almost feel like my price negotiation is going to be, you know, just give me my blocks for free ahead of time. Stephanie asked what this block is called. It is called Mockingbird. And I know this type of a shape has been done on at least one or two patterns that I've seen Missouri Star do, but they do it in a much different way. Hi, Sue, who finally got on with everybody on a live, even though you're on a little later. It is fine. That is what replays are for. If you don't make the whole show, replays make it so that you still get to experience everything. I feel like YouTube is my personal DVR when it comes to quilting. If I'm working on something, I would just go through all of my channels that I follow and say, what do I like? What do I want to watch? What do I not want to watch? Stephanie, I'll send you a little bit more information on the block if you want it, in case you want to see if you can hunt things down. So I'm just going to show real quick the layout because I goof cutted so that we can see what it's going to end up looking like when it's done. Here's that. As if it's much of a surprise, it's going to look like the thumbnail. So that's what it's supposed to look like, even though it's partly cut out of the camera. But I miscut the flying geese, and I'm just going to go in a little bit later after I run my errands, recut the flying geese, and I will have a block to show everybody on my vlog tomorrow. So yeah, it's almost time to go. It would have been nice if I had gotten this done, but I goofed. It happens. Not worried about it. So yeah, I hope everybody has a lot of fun today. Make sure you check out all of the awesome content creators that are out there. Mom and Pop Quilt Shop is going live soon. It's always a hoot and a half with them on there. Tonight at 5 p.m., my friend Stephanie is going live. She is making a rope bowl, and I'm going to be joining her because I've never made a rope bowl before, and it's always a lot of fun to sew with friends. Hopefully, she teaches well. She teaches well all the time, but I think this getting started is going to be the most difficult part, so we will figure that out together. So that's tonight at 5 on her channel. I think Little Hooter might be scheduled this evening at like 7. Don't remember. Don't quote me on that. Check Shannon's channel out for that. And then Shannon normally goes live on Sundays at 11. She's got a little bit of a new job right now, so we're trying to figure out, or she's trying to figure out what her schedule is going to be, so she's asking for some flexibility about her stuff, but I just want to keep you in tune with that. Sean does his weekly podcast on.
There's a notification for Russell.
Shh. My Google speaker said I had a notification. Sean does his podcast Sunday mornings at 9. And I do my weekly vlog Sunday evenings sometime, depending on how long it takes to edit. And last week I had to re-edit because I forgot to do something. And then Stephen and Walter are normally live on Sunday evenings, but they are in Australia, and I'm so jealous of them because they are having so much fun. So I would normally tell you to go say hi to them, but they probably aren't doing a live because it's probably way too early for them, whatever the time difference is. But they've been doing a lot of awesome video updates from Australia, and I'm just so jealous of everything that they're able to do. So make sure you check out all the content creators throughout the week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Monday, right? Yes, Monday is April 1st, so make sure you get your pranks ready. I haven't decided what pranks I'm going to be pulling in the office. Probably not much of anything because we don't have our own space anymore, and it's harder to prank somebody if you don't know where they're going to be sitting. But I will hopefully be able to figure out, something fun to do in the office on Monday. Whether it's, just pretending that I chopped off my finger or something like that. I don't know. We'll see what kind of crazy stuff. I have threatened to bring in a vegetable tray in a Krispy Kreme box because I've seen that a handful of times. But I have been threatened that if I ever do that, I may not make it out of the office alive. So I hope everybody has an awesome rest of your day. I am going to go and pick up my fabric at the local quilt shop and see what other damage I can do to my credit card. And I hope to see everybody at 5 o'clock on Stephanie's channel. Bye!